I don't know.
Yeah, Tuesday the 21st.
Okay.
No, definitely went to the other building, crying.
Okay, that's how I put the sign though. So she can, I actually meant to call her today, I forgot.
That's above and beyond.
This going to the other building is not, not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
That's all right, you can put a sign on the door. Are we ready?
We are, I'm just gonna get our. Local people up here so everyone can see them.
So we might get a couple more trickling.
Yeah, Lucy and Abby might still. Yeah, we're ready.
All right, I'm Josh Caraco, I'm the co-chair, and Charlie is online today, he's getting over a little sickness, so he asked me to lead since it's a lot easier from in the room. And I don't have any like fun words like I did last time, it's October, so I'll just pass it over to Willa to lead this, start this meeting of the Active Transportation Committee.
Awesome, thanks Josh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Willow and I am the City of Eugene staff representative for this meeting. Before we convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. I would like to begin by acknowledging that tonight's meeting is being held on Kalapuya Aliki, the traditional indigenous homelands of the Kalapuya people. We continue to make contributions in their communities here and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to advise the City of Eugene staff and community organizations and partners on the implementation of Eugene's pedestrian and bicycle strategic plan, to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions, and to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and biking. Eugene City staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed to YouTube, meaning it can be viewed on the City of Eugene's YouTube channel, both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary will be held in the public record. Today's meeting will begin with a 15-minute public comment period. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and when it is your time to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and if you live in Eugene, your ward or your neighborhood. We welcome and encourage public participation at all our meetings, but due to time constraints, only ATC members and invited presenters can ask questions and participate in the discussion after the public comment period. So we'll begin with those joining us online. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom right now, and I will call on you when it's your turn. So let me pull up participants and see if we have anyone who. Nope, no online folks. Okay. Public comments from the people in the room. I'm gonna grab the sign-in sheet. We can start with Vicky.
Hi, my name is Vicki Mello and I live in Eugene. I'm in Ward 4. I live by Oakway Road. And I have a couple of things. I know there's a lot of work being done in Allmaker Park to flatten out some of the bumps in the river path area there. But in the main parking lot in West Allmaker Park, I'm wondering if there's anything in the near horizon to replace the pedestrian walkways that are more in the area where they have festivals and all. In the winter time when it's raining, your bike's going out, my bike doesn't necessarily have the best tread. Going around some of the corners, there are once or twice a bike's gone out from underneath me. So I'm wondering if there's well, if there's a plan to replace them. I know limited funds are limited, and I also wonder if there's a plan for better public outreach on e-devices that are on shared use paths. I see that he's still whizzing by quite a bit. Thank you.
You know if there's anything with those paths? I don't know if there is either.
I do not, so we're in Public Works Engineering, Willow and I, and the folks who maintain the path system is Parks and Open Space. And they probably also maintain the parking lots. And so, we can talk to them. I've been trying to get a hold of the master list for how they decide to prioritize what path segments that they're going to do, and I haven't gotten that yet, but I'm getting very close. And so I might also, find out if there are parking lot improvements. Does it mostly need to be swept?
No, replace, there's like these little pebbles, that are along, it's not on the actual riverfront,
It's in the parking lot.
shared use path, but it's in between, all the grassy areas. Not necessarily the one that goes out to, in the middle. Kind of like, I'm trying to think of which direction would be north, that goes, that connects to the path, that's concrete. The rest of it is like an aggregate that's really smooth and slippery when it's wet, so it's along there and also along the parking lot. And I know I brought that up to parks many times before and have lack of funds, and I guess, but I didn't know if that was.
So there is an
I think,
Alton
but I
Baker
thought-
Park master plan process coming up in the next year or two, that Parks and Open Space is going to start. And I think some of that has to do with figuring out, well, what uses need to be there, what facilities need to be brought up. And so if there are soft surface paths, for example, that should be paved. That's part of the input I think that they're gonna take. And then they'll have to start to work on, I guess, the funding part of it, but I don't know that we'll be able to do anything in the interim. If it's already a soft surface path, there's not much we can do.
Well, it's, I
It's
guess,
gravel,
all
right?
paved, it's, no, it's, rocks that are embedded in concrete, I think, so it's just a walkway. In the summertime, it's not bad, cause you're walking along and, although I don't think you feel really good if you walk barefoot, but people have tougher feet than I do. So the shared use path that is getting, repaired and right now, then that's all from Parks and Open Spaces.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll look into this more that you're talking about though, and see if we can just track down some more information.
Yeah, I didn't take a picture, but yeah, it's there and around the duck pond too, but
Okay,
it's more.
Did you use that little blue path detour to get around the new parks?
No, I actually haven't gone over there
Okay.
recently.
Well, if anybody's gonna go on the riverbank path through Alton Baker Park, generally speaking, we would make you like detour all the way up to like Day Island Road, and then like all the way over. And we put some, what's called Moby mat, which is used along the coast as an ADA compliant surface to roll over beaches so that folks in wheelchairs can get down to the water. And apparently that's also an ADA compliant surface for grass. And so we laid those out on the grass alongside the path where we're currently replacing the pavement. And so folks won't have to detour out of direction, they can go on that mat and get back on the path just right around the construction. So it's the first time we're trying to use it, so if you experience it, let us know how it's working.
I experienced it yesterday and I thought it was great, except for the one that had wood chips at both ends. Because that made it totally impossible to bike on, because you had to bike through wood chips, get to the path, and then get to the other end. That was not a good solution for not having enough of the blue cover.
Yeah, okay.
But I was thrilled to not have to do those long things or jump off my bike and roll through the grass or the mud, other than that.
good to know. As far as your question about more outreach for e-bikes, it's kind of an ongoing thing, because we're sort of in, I guess what you could call like a disruptive time with new disruptive technology, which is the e-bikes, and it's sort of creating a situation that we're not that equipped to handle. So we're at the city, we're working on various strategies to figure it out. One of the things we've been working on is trying to educate people about what actually is an e-bike versus like a toy motorcycle or an unclassified electric vehicle. So we have some charts out, EPD has sent out some stuff about it. So that's one thing. We're looking at making some like informative videos, stuff like that, to just educate people on like what is allowed and what isn't allowed, because those ones that are going really fast by you are actually illegal vehicles, like they shouldn't be on the paths at all. A regular e-bike can't go that fast. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't have like a super clear, succinct answer for you.
Well, you're still working on it.
Yeah, still working on it. It's only becoming, I think, more of an issue, not less. So we're continuing to, keep our eye on it and just come up with things we can do. But it's hard to control people's behavior, so. Thanks, Vicky. We'll go to Michael next.
Hey, good evening, Willow, members of the committee, thank you. I'm Michael McKern, live in Eugene in Ward 1 currently. And I work at the Saturday market and the farmers market side of things. And a lot of people in this room and members of our community travel down there on a weekly basis to procure great fruits and vegetables in season. And I've been very privileged to, fortunate to use the farmers market facility that you guys helped and lended to craft. And so I want to thank you for that, and also to ask for a few more zebra crossings down the way on West Park Avenue off of 8th Avenue. Frequently see a lot of very close calls with vehicles versus pedestrians, young people versus pedestrians, cars, bikes versus pedestrians, all types of fun stuff. And I just think zebra crossings would raise visibility down at that end of West Park and 8th Avenue, as well as around that site, East Park as well. I think we could just do better with the crossings that have been there. Market District, lots of zebra crossings. Oak Street, more zebra crossing. So thank you for that. And also while I'm here, I would like to just add in a little plug for more bike racks down at the farmers market pavilion too as well. If you have any say in that, I would duly appreciate that. While I am here and I have more time afforded to me, I would also like to ask for the committee's thoughts and feels on if we could maybe close the streets for maybe one Saturday a month, if that would be kind of crazy. I know, I yield my.
Thanks, Mike.
So I've got some responses to some of those.
Cool.
So on the street closures, we have developed a traffic control plan that would allow for full closures. How that gets decided to move forward is something that Cass from our team is currently exploring. But we figured out how traffic would function if either an Oak or an 8th were closed. So we're kind of starting to put the pieces in place. Bike racks, Shane from our team has been adding bike racks to the downtown network. Has been working with our facilities folks on adding bike racks, inverted U's. I think there's at least 20 more than there used to be, like around the site. So some more, okay. And then there was another thing.
The other thing he's talking about was the crosswalks across 8th.
Oh, is that mostly during events or just all the time you think there needs to be? Are you seeing?
More so during the events that are happening on the Saturdays and Tuesdays. Basically the pop-up tents that are used by most of the vendors around there, they kind of create like a right angle and a block visibility where you walk out onto the street. If no one was there, no pop-up tents, then you could see and have that right, left, but with the pop-up tents and the other creations there, it's kind of limits the line of sight. And I believe that a zebra crossing could create visibility more for people who are driving or choosing to bike down that street too. They need to know that people are going to step out in front of them.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay. Rachel.
Yeah. Can I speak on behalf of someone else?
You can say whatever you
Okay.
want.
Hey, everyone.
It is
Rachel.
held in the public record, so.
Perfect. Yeah, we're good. I work at U of O, so I occasionally get feedback, and I work in transportation, so I get feedback from folks working at U of O or attending about things in their commute. And so I wanted to share this. Leslie Larson said that I could share this with ATC and thought that was a good idea. I also told her about the reporting tool through the city, so I think she may have also reported this there. She commutes from Springfield and comes to U of O through the Knickerbocker Bridge and then the tunnel under the railroad tracks up to Franklin. So this is the area she's talking about. She says, could you let the city know the tunnel will likely need more active cleaning and security now that the weather has turned? Over the past 2 weeks, I've seen trash blocking both tunnels and people have started overnighting inside. I appreciate that the city or Union Pacific replace the tunnel lights. I strongly recommend adding warning signs at both entrances about the blind curve. When I'm northbound, I've had close calls with fast moving e-bikes coming downhill at high speeds, sometimes riding in the middle of the path. In Japan, they install mirrors on tight turns to improve visibility. Something similar could help here. And that's from Leslie Larson.
Thanks, Rachel. I don't know if we have a direct response, but that is a notoriously tricky spot. So it's good to just have some more data, and hopefully she was able to put it in through our reporting system as well, but we'll follow up on it too.
Thank you.
Okay, that ends our public comment period. Perfect timing. Hi, Lucy. We just finished public comment. If you guys want to talk about the September notes, I'm just gonna go sort of close that door.
Sure, yeah, now it's time for approving our last month's meeting notes. Has everyone looked at them? Anyone have any things to say about them?
Alan has his hand up.
Alan, well, please just speak also if there's only a few of you.
Yeah, so in the notes, it said that I would check in with the person who had a close call on High Street to determine where it was, where the near crash took place. And it was indeed on 13th and High that happened. And the person was traveling on their bicycle southbound on High Street when they almost got hit by a vehicle in the southbound lane. I mean, the south lane of the eastbound traffic, if that makes sense. So it was one of those double threat situations where the first car blocked the view of the person in the second lane. And they just blew through the red light and almost hit the traveler. So
So you think it was a red light run?
it was a red light run, yes. The person was on the cell phone.
We are city staff is still toiling in the background to get red light running cameras. There is some community conversation about the use of cameras currently, which is stalling efforts for all types of cameras.
So I just wanted to make sure that got.
So many thoughts.
Thanks for following up on that.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. That's okay. That's helpful, but other than that, do we have any edits to the notes or a motion to approve them?
I move we approve the notes.
Second that motion.
Right, all in favor? How are we online? Oh, I think we have, okay, that's everyone. Great, cool, we're even basically back on time. Yeah, okay, let's move on. We've got Reed and Willow for the next 3 hours.
So I went to Reed to see if he wanted to talk about a couple things, and we realized that we could probably just fill the entire agenda with stuff that's coming up. Sort of the way that our work happens is that in summer, we're very much in like construction time, and people's schedules are really all over the place because it's summertime, so we don't do a lot of planning in the summer. We do a lot of building in the summer. Now that it's fall, school's back in session, people's schedules are sort of settling in, we go back into sort of planning mode. So that's why we have a couple different agenda items for you all today that are sort of around some of the stuff we're looking at for planning this fall and winter. And the first one is Polk Street. Yay. The idea with the discussion today is that we're not giving like big presentations to you all about what's going on. We're just gonna sort of talk through some of the projects that we have coming up and hear from you about your thoughts or opinions about the direction we're going or the way that we're thinking about it. So feel free to sort of like raise your hand or flip your name tag or whatever when you have something to add, and we can sort of have a discussion throughout the session.
So we've got some slides with some maps.
I'm sorry. Get to the slides.
I think some of you will recall when the voter approved pavement bond measure passed, there was a section of money that was specifically dedicated for walking and biking and safety projects. And staff did an exhaustive review of all the projects in the TSP, plus all of the projects that were gleaned via a wiki map that people were able to say, please add this in my neighborhood or on my trip. And so we compiled a list of projects. One of those projects is Polk Street. And so the first slide is just really why Polk Street. If you ever go into Google and then hit on like bikeways, you get this cool green map that shows where all the bikeways are, which I think is pretty cool. If you go forward one.
Sorry, the PowerPoint's being kind of weird. I think I might escape out of it and try and restart it.
Okay. That you can see there's depending on where your origin and then go ahead again, destination is. If you're starting in like the River Road area and you're trying to get to South Eugene eventually, you sort of end up on River Road Chambers. And go ahead one more. So yeah, that's the route, and then one more, and it's scary. So the why Polk Street is because it's scary. And so I'll go forward one more. So what you can do once you get to Second Avenue is you can take Second Avenue, which already has bike lanes on it. And then you can start going north or south on Polk Street. And Polk Street goes from Second Avenue all the way down to 28th. And so it's a really good alternative to Chambers if you're not comfortable operating in heavy traffic. So this is a Chambers, so 5-lane cross section. Yes, it has bike lanes, but it's big and it's fast and it's loud.
Oh, and people crashed. That was in our data.
And that happens too. And then this is Polk Street. So, you know, like one block over, you've got this. And so the project idea is how do we make this more accommodating for bicycle travel? You might see there's 2 travel lanes here. There are 2 parking lanes. There are no dedicated facilities for bicycling. And so people need to negotiate the space outside of the parking to sort of travel through the corridor. And that results in mixed outcomes for folks, depending on what their level of comfort is. So if you go forward, I don't know if I've got another one on this or not. I think I do. Yeah, so I think we'll just rest on this slide for a little bit and sort of talk about, have folks used Polk Street? What was your experience? Are there specific areas within Polk Street? Oh, just go forward one more, I just remembered. So that orange line is the segment from 2nd to 18th where we have money to do something. And that something was identified in the transportation system plan as bike lanes. And so that will provide separated space or separate space or dedicated space for bikes. And we're not talking about protected bike lanes that are completely physically separated. We're talking about standard bike lanes first. There's a little bit of an issue in terms of like how much space is currently between the curves, where we can't just fit everything in there that we would like to on a corridor like this. This would come with trade-offs if bike lanes were the preferred option. And we'll start talking to the community about this very soon. You guys are the first ones in to sort of give us your input about Polk Street and if this is a good idea. And if you've got specific concerns about that, yeah, let's talk about it.
Great.
Anything else, Willow?
Like Reed just said, we haven't started the community engagement process on this, so we're in super early stages. We have some money set aside through Move Huge, but it's pretty limited. It's mostly just striping money. So you'll also be hearing from us more as we like launch the community engagement process to maybe offer feedback on like the survey that we're planning to run, the type of community engagement we're planning to do. But it is just a striping project, so we're not trying to run like design workshops and a full thing because it's not like it's not one of our big projects. It's a Move Huge project. It's relatively standard, but there are some big trade-offs So we still wanna do that community conversation. But you all are kind of the first step. So we're on this slide right now, we could kind of move over to Google too, if people do wanna talk through more specific things, but I'm curious if just from what Reed and I shared so far, if there's any sort of, anything that jumps to mind right away for folks. Yeah,
So my first thought is that, it could possibly be given like the Alder Street treatment, where it's like a. Bikes first road, and then like cars are supposed to sort of like, there's only one lane for cars really, and they sort of yield in both directions. Especially since there's not very much space there, I am having a hard time imagining fitting street parking and bike lanes and car lanes all into that same spot.
we can't.
That's the trade-offs.
So that's why I'm thinking of like the sort of one lane Alder Street type plan.
I will
Go
speak to
ahead,
what anyone else is- I barely ever ride that personally, but I don't live over there, and I do know people who live over there who, I think Tai Chi was someone who. Like, and we do it over around like Chavez, and they usually drive, but they've said if I need to do it, I would go on Polk Street. So clearly, like, it's the obvious choice of doing that direction. I think possibly the word, Logan was looking for is greenway, or at least that's the word that came to my mind. I don't know what the possibility there is, but even like, you know, what 12th Street looks like, seems like when you're dealing with such space, like, of course, we have this other diverters conversation. We've had some issues, getting, but that would be primed for putting a diverter somewhere in that path, so that it really, I mean, that's my response, is like, if there's a place we could put a diverter in to make it, there are a few sections, I think. Like when you're like 11th and Polk. Is it?
12 has a diverter.
Oh, it's, yeah, 12 does, no, but what I mean is, where it's like, where there's more cars that join Polk. That's what because that's actually what I do is I drive on Polk from 11th, because I live at 11th, and sometimes I want to go to that direction, and that's where I would start driving. But that's even a pretty good section between, I mean, there's other entry points, but nonetheless, like, still between like 2nd and 11th, usually that, like, probably not that much car traffic, I would imagine. So like, yeah, I would say ideally figuring out where you can put a diverter, but I don't know if that's in the cards, but that'd be my response. Who else wants to talk?
Nancy and then Peter.
I take this route, to go in that direction, but I don't go on Polk Street. I go either on Chambers or on Monroe. And the reason I don't go on Polk Street is that with the yellow line down the middle and the travel lanes are too narrow, they feel too fast. It doesn't seem like a good place to be on a bicycle. I do think that just in terms of what makes sense in terms of how to get from one place to another, Polk is the right street. The way it currently is now, I do not ride on it. I feel like it's really unsafe. I either stay on Chambers with all that terrible traffic, at least that there's a bike lane and a sidewalk that I can jump up on, and traffic lights, and but most of the time I go all the way over to Monroe.
Peter, and we also have Charlie online.
Yeah,
I also pulled up a thing, so we could pause and we could talk about the thing real quick, but you can go ahead and share your comment first if you want.
you can go, this will help.
Okay, so I get that this is a little small, I can try and zoom in on it a little bit. So this is a volumes chart of traffic volumes, and you can see that the volumes between 18th and 13th are pretty high, and then it sort of drops off, and then once you hit 5th, it drops off quite a lot. And if I scroll down here to this chart, that first section, these first few sections that are high are around 4,500 cars per day or vehicles per day, which kind of puts us outside of the realm of a neighborhood greenway for like the guidance that we have. That the traffic volumes are just too high for it to be comfortable to share.
Not throw a diverter in the middle of it.
If you throw a diverter, it would change the it would change the traffic volumes, definitely. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
With the greenway idea, I don't really love the idea of Polk becoming a greenway. Because it doesn't have a great parallel street. If we put a greenway on Polk, everyone's gonna go to Monroe. Cause like Chambers, I used to live on Chambers, is like almost gridlock from like 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. every day. So people aren't gonna divert to that, they're gonna go to Monroe. So now we have another greenway being compromised, as being diverted here. As opposed to like Alder, where like you can throw people on Hilliard and Patterson and then you're good to go. And yeah, with the amount of people on Polk Street, yeah, I used to live Broadway and Chambers, and so I'd be comfortable Polk Street north of 8. As this is showing, like not only are the volumes lower north there, but the speeds are so much lower because you have the stoplights at 6th and 7th slowing people down. You have the stop sign on 8th Street slowing people down. And so you don't really get that like super aggressive driver behavior that I always experienced when I went on 8th Street, like on Polk Street south of 8th. Because that's when you have these long stretches with really wide, because not a lot of cars park on it. And so like it feels like a 40-foot wide street. And so I'd feel pressured to go in the bike in the parking lane. Because if I'm parking in the driving lane and there's no car parked, it looks like I'm just in the middle. And so I'd have like Teslas and folks like near passing me all the time. And so I'd always just go on Monroe when I lived in that neighborhood.
Just before you get rid of this image, Willow.
Yeah.
So the inverse of this is sort of our initial parking utilization count.
Yeah.
Where the further south you get, the fewer cars are parked on street, and the further north you get, the more cars are parked on street. So it could be that we end up with a street that changes from separated space bike lanes in the part that needs them most to a part that is more shared space where potentially on-street parking is needed most. So those are the sorts of things we're thinking about at this point.
Yeah, I'd also be concerned with having painted bike lanes at the intersections of 6th and 7th because there's so much turning traffic. I'd be worried that right and left hooks would be really common in someone in a bike lane there. While like right now you take the lane and you're much more visible.
That's a really interesting point, because that's been something our team's been like, let's see, I'm at 13th right now, I can zoom down, holy moly. Drunk drive.
Television.
Pictures of taken at different times of year.
That's 8th.
Oh, this is it while there's construction happening. Okay, here we go. There's not really room for bike lanes at these intersections. So as we've been talking about, like if we decided to move in the bike lane direction, we may have to drop the bike lane at the intersections, but to your point, that could work because it would require the biker to sort of take the lane, which could prevent right hooks. I don't know.
It wouldn't be all ages and abilities, but I don't think Polk Street is going to be that way anyway. Yeah.
That's one of the things we've talked about too, is like the all ages and abilities is the dream, but the reality of retrofitting a street is sometimes some bike facilities are better than none, even if it's not all ages and abilities.
And we are currently, we're going to get a traffic engineer to do analysis on all of these intersections to figure out if we actually need those turn lanes or not. And so that will greatly inform what the bike lane situation would be at these major intersections. We quite frankly don't know at this point if we need to keep them. My gut is we probably do, but we're gonna do the math and figure it out.
Yeah. Charlie, let's have you go and then we'll have Alan go after that.
All right, terrific. I've got 2 questions, and the first is, do we have any sense for what the level of bike traffic on Chambers is? I mean, is it just Nancy, or are there other people coming across the bridge on Chambers and riding north-south to connect River Road and Chambers and points further south? And then secondly, are there in some neighborhoods there are people who are pretty irritated about the amount of cut-through traffic in their neighborhood street? Does the city get complaints from people who live on Polk about the level of traffic on Polk currently?
Pertaining to the level of traffic on Polk is a collector street. We expect it to have more traffic. People might be complaining about it, but generally speaking, that's where traffic should be. And so we don't have a lot of solutions for them. Once they get into the local network, We pay more attention to that because maybe it's more suitable for some kind of traffic calming or some diversion. And so the collector, this is where traffic should be, and so that's okay. And then I don't know that we do bike counts on Chambers. I'm trying to remember if we run hose counters out there or not. I can tell you that there are definitely bikes on Polk Street. When we went out, Willow and I and Catherine rode it, and in the PM peak. And there were a lot of bikes on Polk Street, sort of doing what they do, weaving in and out between cars, either taking the lane or taking the parking lane and just sort of figuring it out. And so that's the condition that I think we were responding to when we added it to the transportation system plan. Is that, again, your origin destination, the functional classification of the streets means that it should have bike lanes. And it currently doesn't, and there are reasons why it currently doesn't, and that owes itself to the amount of traffic that there is, what happens at those major intersections with Highway 99, and the utilization of on-street parking. And so this process is really trying to figure out where the balance is in all of those things and figure out if we can deliver a project.
I pulled up, this is from LCOG, I just typed in LCOG bike data on Google, and this is a public platform, so anyone could go on here and look at bike counts in the city, if you ever are feeling data nerdy. Oh, that's not the, let's see. There is a little dot here on Chambers, it looks like the utilization of Chambers as a biking route is relatively low, there's definitely, 100+ people, who use it daily. But
They're mostly on the sidewalk.
you
Ride on the
sidewalk, which we may not be capturing that count. If we go up Polk Street here, we've got a bit more utilization on Polk Street. But we are not in the area we're talking about, we don't have any counters. So that could be something we could look into getting through LPOG. To sort of compare before and after if we do a project. Alan.
Okay, a couple things. I want to iterate what Nancy said about being squeezed between the double yellow lines and vehicles. And I think that there's no reason to have a double yellow line between Second Avenue or is it, I guess, First or Second Avenue and Sixth. The traffic volumes don't warrant that double yellow line, and if you put some large sharrows in there, I think that people can negotiate that space pretty well on their own. And I'm really glad that Reed mentioned the dedicated turn lanes on 6th and 7th, and I would say that there really is no family-friendly crossing of 6th and 7th until you get, I don't even know if there's one to the west anywhere. To the east, you'd have to go all the way, I think, to Lincoln Street before you found a through bicycle route that feels comfortable. Monroe is, I mean, I'm a very confident cyclist, and I hate traveling Monroe between 6th and 7th. It freaks me out, and there aren't very many things that freak me out. So if Polk Street has that barrier at 6th and 7th, I don't think it'll be heavily used. So I guess deference should be given to at least one crossing, whether it be Monroe or Polk Street, so that it's bicycle friendly for all ages.
Thanks.
Lucy, good way.
Lucy, yeah, and then, okay, we'll go Lucy, then Ryan, then back to Nancy.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I used to take that route from like 2nd to maybe 12th. And my experience there was that there is a sharrow somewhere along that way. And I don't know if there have been projects since this, because it's been like 3 years now, but if the pavement was pretty uneven. So just like looking for avoiding potholes and stuff. So that was my experience, and then also crossing over 6th and 7th, there's no indication that like bikes are also in the lane, so maybe adding something like what's on Monroe or something to make folks aware that bikes are crossing there. And yeah, I don't think someone was saying there's no like safe crossing, there's no pedestrian crossing from what I remember. in those areas either. So I don't know if that's part of the improvement process or not, or if you're just focusing on bikes this time around.
Lucy mentioned the pavement quality when Reed and Catherine and I went out to ride it. We were like, let's go ride Polk and just get an initial assessment. And we were like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
The pavement quality is in pretty rough shape. And a concern we had is that if we don't fix the pavement before putting in bike lanes, we're forcing bikers into an area with poor pavement. And now they're like, they can't negotiate that space to like leave. So we went to, you know, the higher ups and we're like, we can't really do this project without fixing some of the pavement. So that's kind of on the table too, is doing some spot treatment, where if we do put bike lanes, the pavement in the bike lane at least would be, or like those individual concrete panels that are in really rough shape would have to be replaced in order for it to be a realistic project. So there would be some minor pavement repair to make it so you're not like fighting for your life in the bike lane between potholes. Brian.
So I was saying, my experience with Polk has been, used to be on my commute to take my daughter to daycare, between 12 and 18. And I kind of had a similar experience where it's doesn't seem like there's a lot of parking on it. And so like, you know, it's oftentimes, you know, bike trailer going over to the parking lane and using it as kind of a bike lane because cars are flying past. But then you ever so often get a car in that lane and you're not just like, so I think the idea of putting a bike lane in there would be really great, because then you're not having to have that stress of like, okay, do I need to merge into traffic? Can I take the lane over there and just use it? Because it's, you know, it's a nice place for that. So I think that will connect really well. It's kind of funny you mentioned Monroe Crossing, because that was actually the crossing I would take to get to that. And that is a nightmare. So it would be if like someone like this had a nice crossing there and you can get down to it, that would be very advantageous.
Yeah, that context of like the comparison with Monroe, and maybe we focus harder on the crossings at Polk because of Monroe or something. We'll see what the traffic analysis shows when we do.
We do at least what we did on Polk Street, which was to let bikes know when they've been detected. That's the minimum amount we can do, and we really need to figure out what needs to happen with these turn lanes to figure out if we can do something beyond that, which might be the magic that makes this work.
If we can take out the turn lanes, I think this project would be really different than if we have to keep them. Nancy and then Peter.
Yeah, whatever you do to Polk Street, if you don't do something about the intersection, I'll never ride it.
The 6th and 7th.
The 6th and 7th in Polk, I would never ride it. I won't cross over there. I think that it's doing a really excellent treatment either at Monroe or at Polk. Since I ride Polk now, I see how much pedestrian traffic there is there. I don't know how much pedestrian traffic there is at Polk and 6 or 7, but I wouldn't go over there. I don't care what you do on the bike line if I have to cross 6 and 7 at Polk the way it is now. There's no such thing as a good lane. It's your good bike lane is as good as its weakest point, and that's do it.
Yeah, do you know, is figure out if you need a turn lane, is that based off the amount of people going straight and turning? Because like there's a lot of turn traffic. The thing that there's not a lot of is traffic going straight.
It's both.
Okay, it's both.
And then how traffic queues up, because the block between 6th and 7th, if folks are sort of backing up into 6th and 7th,
Yeah.
then we have a problem.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to figure out.
And the second thing is, I was biking on Agate yesterday between 24th and 17th, and it reminded me that sometimes a bad bike lane is worse than no bike lane, because it's like 3-4 feet wide in some
It's
points.
not big enough for a bike stencil.
No, and so, yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Just some comments on that though, like how Eugene built its system is that they shoehorned in these bike lanes everywhere.
Yeah.
And the work, at least since I've been here, I've been here almost 15 years now,
Yeah.
is right sizing all of those bike lanes.
Yeah,
And there's still a couple that are left over that are like really nasty, and that's one of them.
yeah, and so if we put in bike lanes, like, let's say we repurpose one of the parking lanes and not both to add bike lanes. Would there be room for a buffer between the bike lane and a car, like at least, like, so someone isn't directly in the door zone for the entire trip on Polk Street, or would it have to be a door zone bike lane?
There wouldn't be any on-street parking.
The reality of keeping one parking lane doesn't really exist, like, if we, and I think that's the trickiness of this conversation, is that if we wanna put bike lanes on Polk, we have to remove all the on-street parking.
Okay.
And there just isn't space.
Got it.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
And the parking lane's only 7 feet wide and a standard bike lane's 6 feet wide.
Hmm.
So we just take the parking lanes, in order to put bike lanes, and then we would probably end up with buffer bike lanes. But if we got buffer bike lanes down the whole thing, including the intersections, it would be a game changer.
Yeah,
The intersections are a big weakness with this Polk Street project. Because of the turning lanes, so we're just not really sure, and we're doing some analysis, and feedback like this is really helpful for us to also like inform that decision.
Struggle with it compared to Monroe. Because Monroe seems like it's much more comfortable besides 6th and 7th to ride. And it leads up to the fairgrounds and other trails, and it goes into Friendly. It's
It's a little further.
It's a little
It
further.
makes a difference if you're coming from where you were saying, from the River Road neighborhood, this or the other. This
You gotta
direction.
come over more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, but
Where is Monroe on here? Is that this?
No.
No,
Very
one
distant.
more.
Past the little tiny
There you go,
park.
that's Monroe.
yeah.
That's the park,
This is Monroe
because
here.
that's Monroe Park.
Yeah, so that handful of blocks makes a big difference.
that's enough of a difference to,
Yeah, 'cause
So I think try and have treatment on both.
I work on Monroe, so that's why I don't. Okay.
and the other thing is west of Chambers, there is no option. And so if you were going anywhere in southwest Eugene to anywhere in northwest Eugene, it's like you bike on Polk or like Chambers, or you're on like Denevo or like one of those like super scary roads over there.
Right.
Like there's no other really good ones.
Right.
So there's a plan to do Grant Street.
Hmm.
As the north side. Which we'll talk to this group about in about 2 or 3 years. When that project comes up.
Yeah.
We have a lot, we're just 5 minutes over, which is
Oh, we're
pretty
5
fine,
minutes over.
which is not a big deal. I also I think some interesting things came up that might get covered later in the agenda anyway.
Okay.
don't wanna-
I do think that we could probably move on here. I don't see other hands raised. And like I said, we haven't even started the community engagement process, so this was kind of our initial conversation to sort of hear where it was landing. We got some good feedback that we can take into the planning process and into thinking about the questions we want to ask the rest of the community about this project, so.
And you can bring that back to us. when you're-
Yeah, ideally you all will look at our survey before we launch it to let us know if we're asking the right questions, because writing surveys is really tricky. We ready to move on to the next thing? Okay, is this it?
Yeah, so go ahead, one more. Boom. So that orange outline, so this is repaving,
We're changing topics.
yeah, whole new thing. So this is Chamber Street. And we're repaving Chambers between 13th and 18th. So it's gonna get new pavement. When the pavement goes away, all the striping goes away, we can put the striping back a little bit differently. Including things like crosswalks or anything else that we can accommodate. So we started looking at the corridor. And at every intersection, we have something we could do. And so we've been talking through what those opportunities are. At 13th, it's mostly traffic related. And it's really about, there's a dedicated left turn lane there, which does not have a dedicated left turn signal. And so we were thinking about definitely doing some turn signal improvements there, which would just help clear out that left turn lane. So that folks aren't waiting for gaps in cars and potentially running into cyclists or pedestrians who are on the far side of the street. So that's what we're thinking about for 13th. When you get to 14th, that's a pretty popular crossing to get over to Cesar Chavez. And there's not currently a marked crosswalk there. Now, there's a number of reasons why we limit the number of marked crosswalks on Chambers. And it's because of the amount of volume and the speed at which people are traveling. And so we don't get away with putting a crosswalk alone at most of these locations because it's not really going to be effective. And that's a lesson that we learned. If you go ahead one more. This is where the existing pedestrian signal is. It's at 15th and it's got the red, yellow, green. And if you remember a couple of years ago, that was flashing yellow. And we lived with the flashing yellow for a couple years, and there were a lot of crashes happening there, because people driving were not complying with the crosswalk. We put in the red, yellow, green, and now on a red, we're getting much better stop and compliance. And so that kind of told us what is working on this corridor, and so while we're looking at 14th, and if you go ahead, another one, we're looking at the Fern Ridge Path bypass, so that floods when it rains, and the Fern Ridge, or Amazon Creek floods, it floods into the Fern Ridge Path. And so you have to go around that, and there's an at-grade crossing to do that across Chambers. That also does not have a marked crosswalk on it. But we're not sure that we could use striping alone to be able to provide that. So these are conversations we're having internally with our engineers about that, what that would mean. But we don't think, this one particularly, I think Will's got some thoughts on it too, is I don't think people are usually using the at-grade crossing, except for Peter. But like when it's flooded, like there's no alternative to doing that. Like,
It's
you have to do
also,
it.
sorry, at night, it often is blocked by tents. And so often at night, you have to use the above.
Okay,
And so that was actually something I was ready to comment on
Okay.
today. Yeah, that's, sorry.
so if you go forward another one, and then at 17th. I was doing a little ride over in that neighborhood with some neighbors. And then we were gonna go over to Albertsons, and we all crossed at 17th, and they said, we try to cross at 17th all the time. This is where we would prefer to cross the street to get over to the grocery store. Again, no marked crossing, and really very little opportunity to provide one, because most of the space there is dedicated to travel lanes or to turn lanes that are long enough so that they can basically store traffic until the light changes at the next, if you do it at 18th, where this is one of our high crash intersections, so we've got a lot of problems happening at Chambers at 18th. We're looking at a number of things here for safety improvements. Particularly with the travel lanes, that there's 2 travel lanes at the intersection, and then one of them drops once you get across Chambers. That's what we call like a drop lane, and it creates sort of a drag race situation where potentially people in the outside lane are trying to get around the row of cars that are sort of queued up at the intersection, and that's a dangerous place to be, and that's where all of our crosswalks live, is in that danger zone. And so we've been thinking about potentially doing some curb extensions to sort of drop that lane sooner so that cars don't have the opportunity to go across the intersection. They effectively become right turn only. And we still have to do some engineering analysis on this. And we're gonna do the math and figure out what the outcomes would be if we change that intersection. But we wanna make it more predictable, and we want people to go the speed limit. And then we also need to sort of figure out where bikes live in that scenario. Because if you bump something out and that's where the bike lane was, well, now where do the bikes go? They don't go into the travel lane, they sort of have to find their way through. And you end up with sort of a semi-protected bike lane situation where you're potentially either bringing people up onto the crosswalk or providing similar space for them to go across Chambers Street. So there's a lot of work that we're going to start doing on Chambers. Remember, this is mostly a pavement project. The pavement is in bad condition. We're gonna put that, we're gonna fix that, put that back, and then put all of the sidewalk access ramps and make them all ADA compliant. And then every one of these intersections, we've got at least something to look at. And so hopefully that sparked a thought or something about one of these intersections, and we can talk a little bit about it. So.
Yeah, since it's a paving project, the curbs, for the most part, can't move. So we're looking at the curb to curb length, and that's why we're not like considering a larger, more like complete street style project here, because it really is just. It looks like you might have slides that sort of zoom in on each intersection.
I don't think so, do I?
Oh,
No, those are the next ones.
oh, that's the next thing, okay. So we could do that if we wanted to go into Google, or we could just sort of hear from folks to start. Brad, are you?
Oh, no.
No, okay,
Sorry.
go to Peter.
Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to talk about today, besides the Fern Ridge bypass, but. Yeah, it's not just when it floods, it's all the time at night that's needed. And so some sort of crosswalk there.
Is the light on under there?
It often gets blocked by people. They like put stuff over it so they can sleep at night. And so that's kind of part of the trouble. And so, yeah, not only is it, there's like people laying down in the path, it's also really dark. And so it just feels safer to take.
So we had a project that got done last year to light all of the undercrossings along the Fern Ridge path.
Yeah, I haven't actually done it that much since last year. so-
And I've been dreading going out there and just checking on it because people either spray paint our lights or break them out or steal the conduit.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly challenging. What we tried to do was put lights outside of it and then shine them into that space from 16 feet above the ground.
Okay.
Outside of it, so that they wouldn't have the opportunity for breakage.
Yeah.
And then on one of them, we actually put it out over the Fern Ridge Creek or the Amazon Creek.
Mm.
And then shined it back down onto the path so that they'd have to get out in the water and sort of break it.
Okay.
And I don't know if they've broken it yet, but if you've seen evidence of this, don't tell me, I wanna find it on my own, but I also don't, which is why I haven't gone out there yet.
Yeah, so it's possible it's better in the last year, since I lived in this area. The other thing is on 18th is one of the treatments you're thinking that wouldn't require moving curbs, like adding bat lanes, like bus and turn lanes on 18th. And then potentially either continuing that lane on the other side or making it like a bus queue jump situation, so you could do the curb roundabout on the other side.
Hmm.
Is that one of the things being studied?
I think we talked
We haven't
about
talked
that.
about that lanes, but we've talked about turn lanes, which could, just invite buses into it.
Cause having buses often get kind of trapped on 18th there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and on Fern Ridge, I would say the last time I was down on Fern Ridge coming back towards the city, there were so many people on the path that long before I got to the underpass, I was not gonna take the underpass. Because there were so many other people on the path already. And I would say the same thing here that I say about Monroe or Polk, which is I might have a preference if I went out there of which one of these intersections is the one that would be the best one to do a good treatment on. But one decent crossing, because there's like 4 bad choices now. One,
15th is pretty good,
50.
but it doesn't get you where you wanna be.
Yeah. Well, like over by Albertsons, that's just like impossible.
Something, I don't know, it's maybe more politically, but I think it's very hard for us to think about solving issues that are related to poverty and homelessness on the active transportation committee. And just that we can do our best to advise, but I think it is also not beyond us to think about the fact that we're fighting those issues, and that's not really a good place to be. We're just like, oh, like, I wanna, like to make it very hard for people to sleep in places that are places that you're gonna sleep if you don't have a place to be, but also if you are biking, you wanna get under. They're not a response here, just that these things are going to come up, and that we don't have the answers for that, or our city needs to house people. So that they don't have to sleep under bridges. But I don't think this is gonna be all that useful, but on a bike, because I don't ride the segment, which I'm never gonna be on Chambers, except when I'm on the Fern Ridge path. And I'm getting between 15th and 18th. And yeah, that crossing is not very fun. I mean, yeah, I just cross as a pedestrian. I do a 2-sided crossing whenever I'm there. There's like, I'm never gonna ride my bike across it, except. There's like. I guess if I'm over. By like, what's that, on the west side, on the southwest side. And I'm going back towards the path, I might take the signal and then bike on the sidewalk or through the Albertsons parking lot back towards the bike path. Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty much doing a double-sided, I actually do a double-sided crossing, it's just like, you're not gonna.
Add it to the gym.
Everywhere you're trying to get, anything in the chambers, yeah, I'm talking about 18.
As I'm looking at this too, Cesar Chavez is that sort of H-shaped building
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah, no.
And 4J recently put up a gate
Fence, yeah, there's a fence.
from the Fern Ridge path. Basically across their site, which used to be really popular for people to do. Now, I just talked to the Safe Routes to School folks this morning, and that gate is open, or it's only closed between 8 AM and 2:30 PM. And they're going to open it overnight for a little while and see what happens. The problem is in the morning, they have to sort of rustle people out of there. That have sort of found their way into places where they really shouldn't be. And so they're gonna try that But as we were thinking about possible solutions and turning to get access back, again, because 15th is actually a pretty good place to cross. And it links directly back up to the Fern Ridge path a little bit to the west. That if we put a shared use path, the green space to the west of that school is all city park. So there's nothing stopping us from putting a shared use path through there and then providing access from there back down to the Fern Ridge path. And so that has been a new idea that has come up recently simply because of that closure and because of the existing infrastructure that we've put in place. So we're thinking about that stuff.
There's a lot of. There's a lot of space, there's a lot of sporting events there.
Yeah, probably wouldn't go like through the middle. That's probably.
Yeah,
That gate has at least been open, I ride it Monday and Wednesday evening around 6 and 7 o'clock. It's been open, it was closed at first and I was so annoyed because I had to go around, because I was doing something in the parking lot at Chavez, but.
Well, it's open in response to the community complaining, so if they close it again, just let them know that that was really important to you.
I was sending a lot of people who were emailing me too for J. Talk to them, and then we did not choose that. Lucy.
There has
Oh,
been,
yeah, I was just gonna add that, third, the idea of adding a crosswalk at the Fern Ridge bypass. I also run that sometimes, and I will go, at grade, is that what we're calling it? Yeah, crossing. So, yeah, I'm in favor of that idea. And then and I like the idea of the path cutting through the, I guess, the playground or the parkland there. I rarely take 18th, and this is probably a different conversation. But I don't feel quite safe on riding my bike on 18th, so I will take like the Fern Ridge path and then cut down through Westmoreland Park. And then try to avoid that intersection altogether.
Yeah.
So.
An upcoming conversation will be when we update the transportation system plan. We're hearing over and over again that our biggest streets are the biggest problems. And for a lot of reasons, but especially for like tuning for walking and biking comfort. There's just not enough separation there between the noise and just the busyness of the road. And we're gonna have a serious community conversation about what those streets should look like. Because right now we haven't come up with a, I think, a good enough answer to make that feel comfortable.
Yeah, and with having the Fern Ridge path pretty close as a east-west option, it just always up there instead.
This is good, but like Nancy, you're using Chambers because the riverbank path is way over here probably, right? So like, there's not always a path next to the corridor that we want to be on.
Yeah, if I'm not in a hurry, I'll go way down the riverbank path,
Yeah.
but over here. Yeah, anything we can do would be.
How are we doing on?
We're about at it, which is perfect. I would want to add one thing, because I like to just add this every time that gets said about our big streets. Because I think this is useful in the community conversation. They are also the most deadly for cars. So when we bring that conversation, we talk about things that might sound drastic, they also are better for cars in the long run. That's all I wanted to add on the record.
Our bigger, faster streets have more serious crash outcomes.
Yeah,
Always.
period. Across the board,
Because of
both
business.
pedestrian, unless they're just don't have pedestrians at all, like there's
Right.
somewhere you just.
Well, the Vision Zero stats show that the majority of people who get hurt or killed on our streets are people driving.
Yeah.
That's the vast majority of people who are getting hurt are people in cars. So yeah, the changes impact everybody. It's not just for people walking and biking.
That would be that's our break unless anyone else has.
Well, I guess I just want to reiterate what I heard during this conversation was like a big yes to improving the at-grade crossing of Fern Ridge path. Seemed like that was the clearest thing. We didn't really talk that much about 18th, like the changes at 18th and Chambers. I guess
think we'll produce some drawings for these folks to respond to. At this point, it's just, we're gonna try to make it better.
Yeah. But it could be detailed and kind of nuanced on like what people biking are gonna do with that intersection, so it might be nice to get more into that detail with you all and see what you think, cause it could look a little bit like. The a little bit like, not exactly like, the River Road and Irving intersection that sort of bumps the bikers up into the sort of pedestrian space, and we are curious if that, feels advantageous or feels like something that's, people don't want, have that conversation. Cause bat lanes could be an alternative, I don't know. We had talked about that when you and Catherine and I were chatting, we were like, or maybe busing lanes, so we'll figure it out. Okay, let's take a break.
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. 5-minute break, be back at, what is that, 6:42?
Does that door lock like this?
It does, it's propped open, cause you actually.
I wonder if
Yeah.
that's, so what exact path are you talking about? Like, we're going to-
They're good.
To the parking lot? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and like the old station has those like.
Sorry?
School
School
sessions.
tracking session, we have to learn to ride,
Okay.
It's like in campus.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yes.
We
So, yeah, and that's like walking at the.
So,
So, pretty curious.
But anyway, we
Yeah.
have that going on.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely try to let my park staff know, like, if we keep an eye out for when the parks and like the all these. Say old.
That we do.
That's really. They might not even be thinking about the way that these old sidewalks are kind of dangerous. And the third one, which is I think the most interesting and might have the most discussion, is MLK, so I wanted to leave that for last. If you just go to the map for MLK, that's the main thing.
Yeah. I have the online people on mute, so they missed that first part.
Oh,
Sorry, online phones.
Yeah.
I felt my phone buzzing and I was ignoring it because I'm at work.
Thanks for tuning us back in.
Sorry, I mute the break so that you can't hear our small talk, so YouTube people can't hear our small talk, but then I forgot to bring you back on.
So,
Okay.
yeah, for the MLK Bridge, I don't know how many folks have been out there. It's, currently there are no sidewalks on the south or the north side. Instead, you just have this like highway buffer condition. On the south side is like, maybe like 10 feet of buffer space for people. The top north side is like 5 feet, and then you have signs for, I think, 40 or 45, but actually you got even higher speeds on there. So it's just like, it feels like you're walking on a rural highway. Which is particularly problematic on game days when you have hundreds of people walking across this bridge. And so our recommendation would be to repurpose one of these lanes to have a wide multi-use space on the north and the south side, similar to how it already is in Eugene. And so just continue the way it is in Eugene further east, except instead of a bus lane, yeah, you have multi-use path space. So yeah. Do you have any comments? Would we want another month to look at this before we approve it? Would we feel comfortable approving it today? Love your thoughts.
I think I'd seen it and I made a recommendation that, but that's Lane County's bridge right there.
Yes. It's ODOT's bridge, I think.
Lane County's bridge. According to Springfield, or Springfield say it's ODOT's bridge.
Springfield told me ODOT.
Okay.
Springfield told me it was Lane County east and west of the bridge, ODOT on the bridge, and then not really Springfield anywhere.
No,
Way east of what we're looking at in Springfield. Yeah, they're basically like. Yeah.
And then Eugene's doing the same thing, really.
Yeah.
So there's two more jurisdictions on the bridge which is the tricky point, because it's where everything chokes down.
Yeah.
And it's because there's, two different jurisdictions there that
Yes.
are more interested in highways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would write this to ODOT, but we're not allowed to. So I'm writing it to Springfield and Eugene, hopefully they're picking up and pass it on to Lane County and be like, this is what both sides want. Can you do this?
But I told Peter I'd give it to ODOT because I'm like staff liaison.
Yeah.
So they'll give it to us as city staff and then we'll kind of be like, hey, our people said this and see what happens.
Yeah, and I have a dream that ODOT doesn't care that much about this because, I mean, it's not the freeway itself, so hopefully they'd be okay with it.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I bike that bridge all the time,
Oh.
because that's my neighborhood, and it's like I'm backing up.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, get out of here, and I bike it all the time because my friends live just up the street.
Yeah.
It's really scary every single time.
And
Yeah.
and if you go a mile east, it's like, there's only one lane each way.
Mhm.
You go 500 feet west, there's only one lane each way.
Mhm.
So I would hope that we.
Except
could-
on game day.
Except on, yes, which is why in the recommendation, we recommend 2 eastbound lanes stay and 1 westbound. Is because the out of game day traffic is big, the into game day traffic is not as big. So like, there still would be 2 lanes, yeah.
I do think that there could be potential for the bus and multimodal to share as well, which is something we do see in other countries. Is like in Mexico, they have a ton of bus only lanes that people bike in, because it's like, you can also bike in here, especially because the bus comes once every half hour.
Yeah,
So that could be something that could maybe be
but we need a walking space too.
true, yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah, there's nowhere to walk.
Can't have bus and walk lane.
I see people walking on there too, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, it's so bad.
yeah,
Well, this is great, thanks.
yeah.
As a Springfieldian.
Yeah, would people feel comfortable voting on this today, or do people feel like they need another month?
I went to the subcommittee meeting and actually read it, so.
Yeah, because feedback will hopefully vote on it in like a week or 2, and then they might provide some amendments, but they've already had the chance to edit it, so hopefully that wouldn't have to be the case. So,
I think I would only remind people, because the only thing that concern that came up to me is that there's always, which I think should not prohibit us from approving it at all, is that like, once people get these things in front of them, sometimes they want to like add more things to them, and it's like, well, yeah, there's always more we could add. And people should have their voices heard, but also as someone who like doesn't do this very often, I'm like, hey, this is a great start, and you added something on a bridge, I would never consider biking over the beginning, so. Yeah. I would support this, very much.
Here, I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to approve and send this memo as written.
I'll second.
Yeah, do we have any, okay, who's in favor? Yeah. I think that's. All right, that's easy.
Alright, and if Springfield decides to make any amendments, I will bring them back next month. But yeah, thank you.
If you guys get improvements over that bridge, I'll be so.
That'd be huge.
I know a lot of people would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, okay, great. Thanks, Peter.
Agreed.
Back to the Reed and Willow show.
Ah.
So I think the agenda says move huge crossings. There are two
I forgot one,
crossings.
there's another one too, in Patterson.
Oh, there's three. Okay.
Which I didn't make a slide for.
But we could talk about it if we have time. Okay, so to zoom out for just a second, the Move Huge projects were identified by submitted by community members, staff went through a big process, identified them, brought them to city council approved a list of projects that are funded through the street repair fund. There are a lot of them, and a lot of them are pretty small. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still talk to people about the planning of these projects, even though it's not that much money and it's not that big of a project, but they're scattered all over town. So, and they're over the next 5 years, including this year. So we're just gonna talk about a few of them, even though they're small, I think they're relevant and important. So the first one is at Jackson Street and First Avenue. This was sort of decided through the Move Huge process as needing improvements from a pedestrian perspective. And we haven't exactly decided. We really haven't decided at all what's going to happen here, so we thought we could chat with you all about it.
So, what you're seeing is on the left, that's Van Buren, that's probably the route that most people bike on, got the signal across first. And then Jackson sort of is this one that's sort of angled. And the throat of that, if you were to leave that ramp, it's 82 feet before you get to the next, and it's only a 2-lane local road to just a bunch of little houses. And that's wacky. We would love to tighten that up, and we've got some money through Move Huge to do that. There's a couple ways to do that. You could extend the corners out to make them go closer together. You could put a little island in the middle, like a splitter. So that northbound is on one side of it, southbound is on the other side of it. Or you could sort of bend the road back to square so that it matches up with First Avenue, just that much better. And right now, we're sort of leaning toward the squaring it up idea. And we'll deliver this as part of a small package of Move Huge projects next year. So these next couple we're going to talk about are going to happen relatively quickly. And they're currently in the design process. So I thought we'd bring this to you and just let you know that this is happening. And there's a couple things we could do here. So I don't know if people have ever used this or experienced this, but I hope on the face of it, this seems like that's probably too big.
Yeah.
What's the cross section of Polk with both parking lanes and the driveway?
34.
Yeah, so this is like
Twice as
over
big.
2 entire Polk streets, including parking lanes across. It's like so long.
Then the rest of the street, it's just widens with that intersection for no apparent reason.
It's just unnecessary pavement. There's so much unnecessary pavement.
I encourage people to take the corner fast.
Yeah, that's the
only
particular
reason.
problem.
Like, is there semi-truck traffic that uses this road?
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
There's a grid pattern here too, so it's not like if this goes away, I don't think I think the sky falls in, it's. Oh, I can't use that one anymore, we'll use the one next to it. well, I can't use that one, use the one going the other way, like every block, there's a way to go north. So this is just, doesn't seem to need to be here.
Something that my brother lives in Los Angeles and there's a very similar intersection 2 blocks from his house and they just prevented incoming cars. They just like did a mobile filter, they just blocked off one side of the street. So that could also be an option. So you could leave Jackson but not enter here.
Sounds like diversion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
That's kind of hard.
that's a no-no word.
Speaking of diversion, I asked Rob about it today in our team meeting. I was like, any chance we are thinking about a response to the diversion letter that ATC sent us? And he said that we just hired a new planner. They're starting December 1st, and that it's gonna be one of their first things is to like do some sleuthing on the diversion and figure out sort of what it means that we have this administrative rule and what it would look like to change it and what the process would be like for that, and if that's something the city wants to pursue. So we're gonna have a staff person dedicated to that issue, starting at the new year. Which is what we said before we hired Jody about sidewalks, and it didn't work, so hopefully this works too.
I'm just curious, if you did square that off, do those lots on either side just get bigger or?
They do. Well, no, actually, the sidewalks stay where they are. There becomes some space between the sidewalk and where the new curbs would be. Where, because of vision clearances, like there's not trees or anything that are planted in there. And so I said, well, we would need like some stormwater planters or something in there so that we can sort of green it up a little bit, make it look like something. And not stormwater planters, but we can probably seed it and so that there's lawn or something in there. And if the adjacent neighbor wants to plant flowers or something in there, I guess that's fine.
So would it look like bringing like this one straight down?
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
this one would come straight down and there'd be like an extra triangle here that we would maybe add, like, you're saying like a stormwater thing?
Yeah, there's little triangles on both sides, but it squares it up better than it is now.
Okay,
And which decreases the crossing distance by a lot.
probably by half.
One more comment with this, like, is there any talk of adding a crosswalk across First next to those 2 bus stops? Cause I have to imagine people are not walking west to Van Buren to cross the street.
There's a bus stop here.
Yeah, if like someone at that bus stop's trying to go into the neighborhood north, they're probably crossing without a signal there. Yeah.
That's pretty close to the signal.
Yeah. But people would, I know.
I know. People are allowed to cross between the intersections if they
Yeah.
decide, so that's
Any-
fine. I don't
anything-
see us marking a crosswalk.
Okay.
If you slow down, anything that slows the traffic down a little bit so that it's going the speed limit is better.
I would say that a big problem on First is the speed. It's
And
very
so
straight.
if you put in more crosswalks and you straighten these things up so that if somebody turning is new, can't do it as fast, anything that you can do to slow down the traffic, because they go too fast, and then you have to cross that really wide place. Another crosswalk would slow people down.
Should we go to the next one?
Sure.
Wait, oh, okay. Is it?
Yeah. So, we are alongside, North Delta Highway. And those are the Delta ponds that you see that are, those are the wet part. And then Good Pasture Island is sort of the green thing at the top. The orange dotted line is if you were ever going between Young and Good Pasture Island Road, has anybody discovered this cool little route through there? It's pretty cool, right? It's got big mature trees and there's a cool little access way for part of it. And it's completely signed, so it's kind of a nice little spot to go through there. So go ahead, another slide. It sort of ends on the north side at this intersection with Good Pasture Island Road at Happy Lane. And a few years ago, I'm getting old, maybe even 10, I don't know. So some years ago, we added a sidewalk on the south side of Good Pasture Island Road from Happy Lane over to the bridge. And a lot of folks who asked for that sidewalk live on the north side of Good Pasture Island Road. There's a large development up there. We did not provide them with a crossing. And we said, we will come back at some point and build a formal crossing. And so it's taken us a while, but that's what we plan to do is most likely on the west side of that intersection, put in an island in a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, so those yellow flashing lights. And connect that northern neighborhood across Goodpasture Island Road to that southern neighborhood, but also to the sidewalk. Which is only on that south side because we could not build one on the north side, because the road drops off. Into like 12 feet off the earth. And there's just no there to put a sidewalk on. So folks have to get to that sidewalk if they're gonna get to the bridge. And so that's this project, and again, it's one we've been meaning to come back to, and I was thrilled that folks. In the wiki map for Blue Butte were like, hey, we still need our crossing, I'm like, good. So we were able to fund it, which is great. Yeah, so that was pretty.
See?
Yes.
That'd be awesome. For some people, it will be so awesome, it'll be like a game changer. Yeah,
It definitely will be, yeah.
yeah.
Cause that's such a horrible intersection to have to cross at because of the way the road curves, the hill, the butte right there around it, that's hard to see when cars coming zipping around, and again, speed, people go really fast on that street.
Yeah.
That'd be really nice to have.
And so, yeah, that's a good reminder too, we might have to do an advanced flasher too, just because of the curvature and because of the slope. But we'll take a better look at that too, and just kind of see what those sight lines are like, cause yeah, I remember it now too, it's hard to see very far in either direction.
Yeah. I've had to walk across there a number of times, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
You kind of get ready and sprint.
Which not everybody can do.
Yeah.
And there is space to put a refuge island, so people can't cross one way at a time.
Correct. Okay.
Should that be, would be a raised crossing or?
No.
Does that not, that slow people down?
No.
Because we don't do race crossings on that classification of street.
Yeah. The two that I forgot, if you go to Google, everybody should know this if you've ever ridden on 15th Avenue toward campus, is crossing Hilliard and Patterson. Is not fun. We have money in Move Butte to add rectangular rapid flashing beacons across Hilliard and across Patterson and 15. And what we're currently trying to figure out right now is if we is basically where do the beacons go? We sort of want them on the north side because there's overhead street lighting there. But if you're headed toward campus, you're on the complete opposite side of where that enhanced crosswalk is. And so we're also looking at potentially putting in some bike push buttons to actuate that RFB on the far side of the intersection. So some communities have been doing this. We've been talking about doing it. In other words, if the crossing goes up here and you're going this way, then you either have to come up here and do this and then come back down, or what if we put a push button right here? And then these lights start to flash, our stop line is right here, and then you can cross. So we're currently talking about that with our engineers. Doesn't look like the manual and uniform traffic control devices loves that idea so much, but we'll see what we can do. The upshot is that if you're walking this corridor, it's gonna get a lot easier, because there's gonna be RFBs there. To let folks know that you're there, and hopefully they slow down and stop when you're in the crossing, and then we're trying to figure out how to tune it for bikes, because there's a lot of bikes that use this corridor as well.
Charlie.
Yeah, Reed, I'm so excited about this project, which is just hugely needed, crossing Patterson and Hilliard. And I'll note the beacon problem is the same that exists at 30th for cyclists, at 30th and Alder. And if you can figure out how to make the engineers happy with it here, coming up with a solution that allows those eastbound cyclists to successfully trigger the beacon and get protection, I would love to see it deployed at 30th as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. We think this is a good place to test that out. Traffic is moving slower here than it is on 30th, for example. Also, Will, have you told them like we're getting like a new traffic engineer and public works engineering?
No.
Okay.
It's very exciting for us. I don't know how exciting it is for you guys, but right now, the traffic engineers are all in a different department than us, and we are in the process right now of hiring a traffic engineer who lives with us. in the transportation planning team. And what that will do is just give us a lot more ability to do the planning side of traffic engineering. Because right now the traffic engineers are all on the operations side. So they're very deep in just trying to make sure the system as is works. And they don't have bandwidth to be like, but how could it be better? So that's what this traffic engineer will do is they'll live with us and work on the how could it be better side of traffic engineering, which is really exciting. And hopefully, once that person's on board, they can come chat with you and we can, develop that relationship so we can have those like, how could this be better from a traffic engineering perspective? And that has a lot to do with crossings, like that traffic control.
And I mentioned that specifically because it gives us an opportunity to have the conversation again. We've already had it with the folks who are here, and so someone else is coming in who has authority to say yes, and so. Good, we'll have that conversation again.
I think that is exciting.
It is exciting, yes, I
It's
haven't.
good for you to have someone to talk to the traffic engineers, the other side. You're like, no, but this is why.
Yeah, and I've had the time and the bandwidth to sit down and really think about
We
it.
want them to, they need to agree too, so it's not,
Right.
but
You're
it's
speaking the same language. so
Correct.
you
Yeah.
agree.
correct.
Cause us as planners, we're like, wouldn't it be cool if you could do this thing, but we don't really know what we're talking about. From a like intense engineering perspective, so. Did you have something?
Yeah, very happy about the engineer thing, also very, very, very happy about these crosswalks. So do you know yet if they'd be north or south side? You're saying, you thinking north?
We're thinking north, because that's where the overhead street lighting is.
Okay,
And so it's easier to upgrade that lighting element to an LED and just make sure that it's consistent with
Yeah.
our current standard.
do you think it would be worth recruiting Live Move to do some like pedestrian counts of to make sure that like. They're like, if most students are using the south side of it.
I walk this way to work, and quite frankly,
Okay,
I cross when there's a gap in traffic.
Yeah.
And if I'm on one side and there's not a gap, I cross to the other side, maybe now there's a gap.
okay,
And so I think most people sort of cross opportunistically through the corridor.
Yeah.
To like that, and so they won't have to do that when RFPs are here, they can just sort of stay on that one side, at least for a couple block, like a block.
Yeah.
Which would be better. Yeah, no, that's a good idea, but I don't think we need the data to. And we can always come back and retrofit it too. There are some communities that would put like 4 RFPs out there and like have each, the north side would have 2 and the south side would have 2. We're trying real hard not to do that.
Yeah.
Because we've already got a lot of RFPs to maintain and they're very expensive.
Mhm.
So we'll see, but hopefully this works the way that we intend.
Are we thinking north side for Hilliard also?
Correct.
That's just one block over. That'll be here.
And we'll rebuild the ramps there too.
When we rebuild the ramps, would there be opportunity to create like a ramp for the bikers to get?
There would be.
yeah.
Cause that could
or
be
bump out.
nice.
Yeah.
What?
Or a curb bump out,
Oh, for the parking?
yeah,
Well, there's a bike lane there,
or on the west side of Hilliard.
You,
on the west side. Yeah, potentially.
so bike ramps and bump outs question mark for that project. I think that's all we got for crosswalks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Right. Oh, I guess we can, the signals, yeah. More for you guys, that'll be lively, probably.
What's next?
Next steps on our traffic signals.
So I don't know if y'all remember last meeting, we were it was 7:30 and I was like, I have an exciting update.
Yeah.
The traffic engineers did some of your signal suggestions and everyone was like, yay, and then it was like, bye, and we didn't really have a chance to talk about it because we were already over time. So I wanted to just like give us more time to talk about it. And I'll just bring over this email from Rob, because this is what I was referring to, and I was like, hey, everybody, here's this thing that we did, so. Reed and Rob met with Natasha, Brett, and Chris on September 3rd and followed up a couple days later with the following information. So Reed and Rob sat down with them and your traffic signals memo that you wrote and went through some of the recommendations, and it left that meeting not necessarily with an agreement to do them. And then a few days later, traffic operations were like, hey, we did these. Which was really
That
cool.
was awesome, thanks. You
Yeah.
want to send them donuts, they would love that.
So these are the things that they implemented. They added pet recall for Coburg at Cedarwood and for Coburg at Country Club and at Coburg for MLK. And by pet recall, just to make sure everyone knows what that means, is that when the driving signal turns green, the pedestrian signal just also comes up at the same time without the button having to be pushed. And then north and south ped recall for Willamette at 24th, 25th, and 27th. And then they added a 4-second leading pedestrian interval, crossing Franklin at Walnut. And a leading pedestrian interval means that the walk signal comes up before the driving green comes up. Please note that the ped recall for 24th and 25th may be temporary based on results from camera observations on how turning drivers interact with pedestrians.
Interesting.
There's a lot of nuance there, so one of the things I learned when we sat down with them is that signals are complicated. I guess I knew that, but
We heard that too.
like seriously complicated. And so there's a lot of things we do to facilitate left turns. And one of them that we do at like 27th is the yellow flashing, the yellow permissive arrow. And we have a policy based on observation that we don't do the yellow flashing arrow and a pedestrian walk at the same time. Because folks are generally just looking for a gap and not thinking about the pedestrian. So we call that a ped minus left, where like sort of that goes away. And so keeping an eye on it means what happens to the intersection if we remove some of these opportunities to clear out the queue at each one of these intersections, because we've eliminated one of the signal movements. And there are additional things that we can do, but we're gonna see how this works at first, because it's easy to do and we can do it with our existing hardware, it's just a timing thing. And then sort of see what happens, and so they're gonna collect some video footage and just sort of see how folks are treating it. And so hopefully this works out well, and if it does, then we potentially don't have that ped minus left conflict at some locations, the way that we do on River Road, which is where it was the problem, which carries a lot more traffic at higher speeds. So everything depends on its context. Willamette is its own context, and so we'll see. But they were willing to do this. Thanks for the letter, and yeah, go out and use it and see if this is what you wanted, because this is what we got. And if it is, then maybe we can get some more of them. And in the meantime, they're collecting some data to make sure that the performance is adequate and safety is at least improved or not made worse than it was.
And just to clarify what you just said, since they added pedestrian recall on Willamette, you're like crossing 27th or 25th or 24th on Willamette. They have eliminated that yellow flashing left at those intersections.
I'm not sure,
Is that what you
there's
mean?
some nuance, something had to happen. Something had to happen.
Something had to
I
happen.
didn't watch it to see what happened, but something had to happen.
I was out there and I was at a rack with my bike, I think, and the walking signal just turned green. When the driving signal turned green, I was like, oh my god, this is exciting, but I didn't look to see what was happening with the left turns.
Yeah, I'm at that intersection almost every day, that 27th one. And so, yeah, the recall is there, which is awesome. The yellow flashing light is also still there, but I didn't pay attention to whether they were both up at the same time. Are you saying they can't be up at the same time, or maybe they are bending
Maybe
that?
the context here is different than what we had observed on River Road, and we are doing a ped with the flashing yellow.
Okay,
That could be, and that's why we want to keep an eye on it,
yeah.
because we've had trouble in other locations.
One thing I did notice is that and I'm super happy about the changes, by the way. The pedestrian, the crosswalk is still just the bare minimum of like, I can't remember how many, it's like 18 seconds or something.
And then it turns off, so it is still most of the time, it is still green, north-south with no. Crosswalk, and if you were to arrive like after that, like bare minimum has ended and push the button, you would still have to wait until the next.
Yeah.
The next
I noticed
cycle.
that too. And I was
So-
wondering, based on your conversation with the traffic ops people, if there's capability to just make it like. Not on automatic recall, but make it on, like, when you hit the button, it comes like. It creates it just brings the walking signal on when you hit the button, even if you're mid-cycle.
It depends on how much time is left in the green phase.
And
If there's not enough time to run the pet phase,
Right.
what's left in the green phase, the answer is no.
because the situation on the limit was that even if you arrived 1 second after the driving signal turned green, you hit the button, it wouldn't come on until an entire thing went by.
So some signals, if you always try to push it, because sometimes you do.
Sometimes it
get
does
the block
work,
signal
yeah.
because there's plenty of time left. Our signal infrastructure is all over the place in terms of the controller cabinets, and so. We're always looking at opportunities to modernize and make them smarter. So that they can do more things. Sometimes one of the limitations that we have is that our signal controllers don't do everything we need them to do.
And I think that might be the limitation at the low
It
limit
might be.
street locations is that it's like either you have to wait a whole cycle. After you press the button, or it can come on automatically, but you can't do mid-cycle pressing, which I think probably would be the preference. Right, because as you
Yeah.
arrive at the intersection, if you press it, it gives you that 12 second, or like even extends the green phase
Yeah, I
long
think-
enough to get you across or something.
Yeah, I think that was the thing, it's not so much having to push the button to get the light, it's that pushing the button. In most intersections that I observe, requires you to wait a full cycle,
Mhm.
even if there would be plenty of time left in the green.
Mhm. Unlike at Cedarwood Country Club and MLK, where the problem is pushing the button because it's such a high bike corridor. And bikers don't wanna have to stop and push the button, but for a high pedestrian corridor, pushing the button's not a big deal, cause you're going walking speed.
Unless you're 2 seconds away from it. But then the light turns green and now you missed it.
Yes.
Which is what's happening on the land,
Mhm.
because I walked on the land too, I'm like,
Well, yeah.
missed it.
I was gonna say, well, I think a lot of us also had other questions of, because we gave a list, and then we were all like, oh, there's all these other things that were glaring things we would have liked to have included on that list, because. Those we had thought just like examples.
I think this
And
was
we
a
could
bite-sized chunk.
Yeah.
We still had to have folks go out in the field. It's my understanding that when they make a change out of signal, they have to file some paperwork. Maybe even with the state, so it's like, it's not a small deal, but
Yeah, we were
they
pretty
have to
excited.
have. Time to do it, so this was a good chunk for them. Maybe you wanna work on the next bite-sized chunk, and then maybe they'll tell us when they can get around to that.
Is there a number of like, how many intersections is a bite-sized chunk, like 10?
I don't know, but they did these.
Okay.
7.
I thought of a conversation we had earlier today, and also we are 2 minutes over time, but
Oh, yeah, well, so
but I think this is maybe more important, I don't know.
we should probably wrap this
Uh,
conversation up.
But yeah, I just earlier we were talking about how there is just no pedestrian friendly crossing anywhere on 6th and 7th. And like, we should have one, and it should have LPIs too. Like.
So that might be-
That's what I mean, we should have more than one, but we should really have one. Just also in relation, we were already talking about that today, how it's, I mean.
So my initial thought is that street is ginormous, and I would say that's 99 in general, it's just too big. And in the downtown, so starting at like Charlton, there is a project to add on-street parking. To one side of both of those streets, 6th and 7th, which will narrow the crossing distance, and we will build curb extensions to narrow that up. And that would be an opportunity with that to look at some of the signal timing and such too, so that will be better. I still don't know if it's gonna be great, but you'll have less exposure because there will be one fewer traveling.
Oh, I think that's part of it, well. A lot of us had said though, like the width, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and there's 5 lanes. So you have, if you get, and you don't even have pedestrian recall, so you can wait an entire minute to cross that street.
And it's
Like any,
a
like,
very unpleasant.
6 or
minute.
7
Yeah,
at Blair, or Monroe or something, but I would say Blair would be the most like. And very heavily used by pedestrians relative, because there are a lot of things between,
Mhm.
you know, Broadway and. What is Fifth, basically, or the other side of Fourth. There's like actually a lot of used things that pedestrians use on every side of that. And it's, yeah, and you could, especially in the summer, you can be just like standing in like hot heat by a freeway.
So maybe the ATC subcommittees can think about a couple more recommendations that we could consider sending to traffic operations.
Everything he said.
Okay,
We should-
thanks.
With our last few
Very
minutes.
quick thing, so is it the Roosevelt office that deserves donuts for this, or who deserves donuts? for this?
Yeah, Chris Henry's team.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, Brett and Natasha, Chris, Brett and Natasha, yeah.
They're
And
getting
their signal guys.
Yeah, and their whole team, yeah.
2,000 donuts, kid.
2,000 donuts.
2 dozen.
You're delivering, I'll ship it.
Okay, let's make this happen.
Okay, few things I want to mention, we've got 5 minutes left, it is Walktober. So if you haven't been to wewalklane.org, it's basically May's Bike Month, but for walking. It's also the coffee shop hop, so you get discounts at all the local coffee shops, most of them are in downtown Eugene. How many stickers do you have?
4.
Nice, I only have 1 sticker so far. So if you go to any of the participating coffee shops, they'll just have a little thing and you can just get your passport there and they'll give you stickers. It's really fun. It's also the Get There challenge right now. So if you have a Get There account, you can log your walking trips and your biking trips and win prizes. There's not that many people who participate, so the chances of winning are usually pretty high. Like
And they're
most
decent
years.
things, they're not little blinky lights, they're like.
No, they're like $100 gift cards
Osprey
and
waterproof
waterproof
backpacks and
backpacks
stuff.
and like good stuff. So go to Get There Oregon, just type in Get There Oregon on Google and you can make an account and track your trips and probably win prizes. I win something like every year.
Yeah, tell the coffee shops, they really like to hear that people are.
Yeah. Yeah. Anna Zivers is coming on October 14th.
I'm your visual aid person.
Yeah, that makes sense. There are flyers up there, so if you want more information about it, you can grab a flyer. She wrote a book called When Driving's Not an Option. She's a low vision adult, so she can't drive as a disability, so she has been a big advocate in the transportation realm for just the third of humans who can't drive. And how our cities need to accommodate those people.
She started the week without driving.
And she started the Week Without Driving Challenge, which is designed for decision makers to go a week without driving and sort of experience what it's like to be a person who can't drive.
Next Tuesday.
Is that next Tuesday already?
It's
Wow.
next Tuesday, it's my goodness.
Yeah, grab a flyer if you're interested.
Hang one up sometime. Take one home, hang one up.
I just launched ATC recruitment, so the application is open. We already have a couple vacancies and we have a couple people stepping down, so we need like a lot of people to apply, so we can get some great new people. If you haven't emailed me yet to let me know if you're planning on staying for another year or not, please do that as soon as you can so that I can get an idea of how many people we need to recruit. You don't, your commitment is just a year, you don't have to be like, I'm staying, forever. Just let me know if you want to stay until December of next year.
Not everyone's Alan.
Yeah, we can do many terms on the ATC. And if you know people, please share it with them, or if you have social media, find our account and share it through social media. I don't know. Oh. There's a complete streets workshop happening on Monday, daytime, I think, that's coming up, oh wait, that's November, sorry, okay. There's a complete streets workshop that's happening November 13th. And you all are invited, but it is a daytime workshop. So for folks who are working daytime jobs, probably not an option, but if there are people here who want to be involved in a complete streets workshop in November, let me know, it's with AARP and yes. So I can I'll bring you more information about that or send some information out via email.
The Highway 99 stuff will be daytime, the River Road stuff will be evening time.
Oh, okay, cool, great.
And I will bring fires when we make them.
Okay, perfect, yeah, and if, I think our meeting is actually the day, actually, I think that's the day of our meeting is November 13th.
Yeah, I'm missing it.
Okay, great. So don't miss ATC for it, except for Peter, because he's the intern for us. Everyone else has to come to ATC. Okay, anything that people want to share from subcommittees or BPAC?
I feel like we did those as part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Okay.
Feedback hasn't met.
Okay, cool. Last thing I'll mention is that the downtown loop has launched. That was the outcome of the downtown transit study. So there is a bus that's driving all around downtown every half hour. So if you haven't had a chance to hop on that and take it to Safeway or take it to the city hall and just be excited that we have a new bus, I would throw it out there that it's an option for you guys. Okay, that's what we've got. Thanks for a great meeting, everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks online people.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So where's the road?